Hello, this is the first video of week 1, which is devoted to margin analysis. That is, the ability of the company to create a surplus. It is indeed obvious that if a firm is unable to sell its products or services at the price which is higher than its cost, no need to go further, the company will disappear. In order to assess the margin analysis, we will work on 4 videos. The first video will look at the general landscape by focusing on the evolutions of revenues or sales. The second will concentrate on the margin structure through the profit and loss statement. The third video will describe the combined trend in revenues and cost and what is sometimes called the scissor effect. Eventually, the fourth video will introduce the break-even analysis. Let's start by understanding the basic characteristics of the company. It is obviously different to analyze a fast-growing business or a firm facing stagnation or recession, or a company in the middle of a restructuring process, or any other possible situation. How are sales changing through time? There are 3 main effects. A volume effect. I sell more and more product, I deliver more and more services at a stable price. Second, a price effect. I sell the same number of products or deliver the same volume of services, but I'm able to increase my prices to the customers. Third, a change in scope. I bought a competitor or I sold a business unit. The scope of my business is changing and the impact on my sales is going to be quite significant. Let's be realistic. We will rarely have one of these effects in isolation. Usually, we will have in most cases a mix of 2 or even 3 effects together. Let's illustrate these 3 effects by using the example of 3 well-known companies. L'Oréal, the French and international cosmetics company, has experienced between 2011 and 2012 a revenue growth of roughly 10%, going from 20.3 billion to 22.5 billion euros. It is not the price of perfumes or shampoos which have dramatically increased, no, but the volume of products sold. This corresponds to the strategic plan to continue conquering the world by attracting hundreds of millions of new customers, in particular in the middle class of emerging markets. This is a growth essentially based on the growth of volume. Second company, ArcelorMittal, the European leader of the steel industry. Sales have declined by roughly 10% from 94 billion to 84 billion euros. This is a quite stable demand from their biggest customers, building construction, car industry, but a declining price of steel on the markets. Arcelor had to decrease its price at this time. The revenues are declining, resulting from a price effect. Third example, Fiat, the Italian car company, has experienced a growth of 41% between 2011 and 2012. It is obviously not due to an increase in prices. They have not increased their prices by 40%. Nobody would believe it. It is not that Fiat has been able to sell 41 more cars in 1 year. Nobody would believe it too. No, it is due to the acquisition of Chrysler, which has tremendously increased the revenues of Fiat. So the increase in revenues in that case is essentially due to a change of scope. So you see on these 3 companies that an increase in revenue can have very different explanations, which are important to pinpoint and to recognize right at the beginning of any financial analysis, even if, as we said earlier, there's rarely pure cases, and in many situations, 2 or 3 effects will combine. It is important to try to separate, to isolate as much as it is possible each of these effects. In the next 4 weeks, we will use a case to illustrate the various steps and concepts used in financial analysis. You have downloaded the Gremlin case and all its financial information. This is a British medium-sized company created by Ian Stewart in Scotland, producing and selling video games in the UK and beyond the UK. At the end of each video, I will propose an exercise to apply what we learned together, which will be discussed in the live sessions. Sales of Gremlins have increased from roughly 7.5 million in 1996 to 10 million in 1997 to almost 18 million in 1998, an outstanding growth with an average of more than 50% per year. Is it a growth from the price effect? Inflation was quite low at the time in the UK and in most developed countries. Is it a scope effect? You would have been told that in the case, in the story of the company. Plus, you would have found in the business case of Gremlin a high level of intangible asset, what we call the goodwill, which is absolutely not the case. So, it is essentially, in that case of Gremlin, due to volumes. The company has sold something like 50% more product each year. In fact, 32% more in 1997 and 77% in 1998. This is essential to remember for the following discussion of Gremlin. We are studying a very fast growing company in volume sold to the market. The landscape and overall overview of the revenues is now finished, and we're ready to look at the structure of the margin, the topic of our next video, the third of week 1. See you in a moment.